A city with a thriving art scene is very likely a great city to eat in. Spend any time in St. Louis and you'll realize it's a city in love with art. Everywhere you look, there is something new to see. How can I make such a blanket statement about food and art, you ask? Over time, I've come to see a correlation between the kinds of creativity that takes to fuel an art community and the food that usually follows, each one inspiring the other. It's a mindset of creativeness. Art is supposed to be subjective. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and that kind of thing. But discerning art enthusiasts are not. It would be hard to find a palate that would disagree with the artistry of food here. As a chef, I need to stay curious in order to evolve. For me, that means looking beyond a great meal to learn more about who made it and what inspires them to cook. Every great city has great food. I'm going on a journey around the world right here in St. Louis to find good food and experience other cultures. I'm on a quest to find passionate chefs who cooks from the heart. Because food is love.
It's gonna be delicious.
Food is love. Love your food. The arts are an important part of St. Louis culture and economy, but with public gatherings discouraged and theaters closed, there's less traffic and far less business for places like Turn. Things are the hardest now that it's ever been for the restaurant scene. Today we are visiting Turn Restaurant in the St. Louis Art District. Heard a lot about it, especially the Biscuit flight. I'm definitely gonna try that today, and we're gonna meet Chef David in there. When you meet David Kirkland, the artist behind the concept of Turn, you immediately pick up on his cool demeanor. He's the kind of guy that can tell you the name of the obscure tracks from the B-side of every record you never heard of. His finger is on the pulse of what is good in music, and his hand trained to move in a circular motion.
It's all about the stir game. I just keep constantly stirring to make sure everything's good.
What's behind the name?
It's a lot. Turn of season.
Yeah.
Turntables, like turning the tables, right, in the restaurant world.
Yep.
But since I'm a DJ as well, it also means turntables.
It's very smart. Walking into Turn, your eyes are drawn to a towering wall of records. A DJ by virtue of his passion, David wanted a way to enhance his space and also showcase his huge record collection. His wife, who's also an artist, lends her touch by color coordinating what has become a revolving showcase of album covers.
I've got the grits going right now. I'll get you on some stirring if you want.
All right.
It's just a white stone grit, nothing special. Special's in the seasonings.
But, you know, you and I have talked about before that, you know, grits means different things to different people depending on what part of the country you're from. And,
that's right. That's right.
People take it real seriously, too.
That's true. Like, my family's from the north, and they do grits sweet with a little salt and pepper and sugar. And people in the south think that's an aberration.
Yeah.
So there's this smoked paprika, garlic, onion, and then I'm going to do salt and pepper later to taste. You can just get burned by people who are like, that is not traditional New Orleans food, but I do food that I like, right? So biscuits is southern.
I mean, are you doing southern food, or is it like eclectic?
It's eclectic.
Eclectic? Okay.
Yeah, like American eclectic.
American
right?
eclectic, okay.
Oh, that's looking good.
I mean, where are you from originally?
I'm from St. Louis.
You know, I am capable of stirring, you know.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, I know.
As a latchkey kid, I had to fend for myself. And I learned how to cook just by destroying food and practice and practice and practice. And I worked for some great places, and I started kind of developing a love for food and a love for working in restaurants. And I opened up Cafe Osage in 2008 with them, and I stayed there for about 8 or 9 years. And then I came here in 2016 and opened this restaurant. Oh, that's looking real
About
nice.
3 years, so you've already passed the mark, so you're going to make it.
I thought 5 years was the mark.
The jury now, they convict you a lot faster than they used to.
That's true. We do a dish called Leo, lox, eggs, and onions. My father-in-law taught me about this dish. My wife's family's Jewish. They had a bunch of scraps left over from Rosh Hashanah. At the end of the trip, he was sending everyone home, and he says, Dave, do you want a Leo? And I was like, what's a Leo? And the whole family's like, lox, eggs, and onions. So it's essentially a scramble with lox, red onions, and cream cheese. So then when we were opening the restaurant, I was trying to figure out how can we elevate this dish for a restaurant style. So this is my version of it.
So you're brunching it today, right?
We always brunch.
Okay.
We just started doing dinner like 2 years ago. Hamilton is what made us go into dinner. And people were asking for reservations, like we're not open. So then we said, well, we should try it because we weren't sure if we were going to do well for business because this is an arts district, so it's not super busy. Like we're on the fringe of like where the Fox is, and we're on the fringe where the Symphony is. But more and more, we've been letting people know that we're in the district. So this Fox season this year before COVID, we're like things ramping up, and it felt really good. But now there's no shows at the Fox or the Symphony, so then there's nothing happening in the district. So it doesn't make sense for us to be open for dinner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. One advantage Tern has in the food supply gain is fresh produce.
This okra is from the rooftop. We have access to vegetables in the garden and the rooftop here. So I do a lot of like seasonal food.
Next stop is the rooftop to take a look of where some of the fresh produce from Tern comes from. So it's a rooftop garden?
Yes. They have 3 rooftops in St. Louis. They're a nonprofit, and their motto is to give food to food banks and people who are in need.
The concept of the food roof is not a new one, but the approach here is Urban Harvest is less of a business and more of a community outreach.
So doing a bunch of corn right now, so I've been getting a lot of horticulture. 2 weeks ago, got up to like 2 pounds of baby carrots. So divine, I grilled them. Made like a carrot balsamic glaze for them and put on top of that.
Yeah.
I've been getting jalapenos, poblano's from them. They're growing sweet potatoes on another roof and here as well, but I've been getting the leaves from the sweet potatoes, and we're using those in one of our dishes for lunch.
Sure, they sell some of their produce to restaurants like Tern, but they also give a huge amount of their produce to people and organizations all around the city. An obvious example of food is love.
Sage, lots of basil.
I think I need to hang out with you more often. You know where all the good spots are.
I just eat.
Because of his dual business model, David spends a lot of time outside of his restaurant on another floor of the same building. For David, a slow week in the restaurant has always been balanced by catering events.
So this is where we do all the weddings here. So I'm pretty lucky to have a space where there's a kitchen downstairs.
Yeah.
And I can provide good food for this without having to bring it all in.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of satellite events that we do as catering. So David Kirkland Catering is the business, and then Tern Restaurant is my other business. And with COVID right now, we've lost.
The pandemic has, of course, had an effect on everything. David is turning fewer tables in-house, relying instead on to-go orders and a scaled-down menu. But the artist in him is still optimistic.
So I just like for the curve to flatten so everyone can get back to business.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have a good feeling about it?
You have to.
Yeah. Stay positive.
Yeah, you have to. I grew up a mile and a half that way on the north side.
There must be some satisfaction in it for you that, you know, you traveled a lot and then you come full circle back to St. Louis.
You know, St. Louis is easy. It's easy to live. You know, the Midwest is easy. But it always makes me feel good to be in these neighborhoods because I grew up, you know, I have like a melancholy, you know, when I drive around the streets, and I just kind of remember being small.
You know, I think everybody's like that. I'm the same way. Even though, you know, America is my home, you know, those feelings you get when you set foot in where your childhood was, it just brings back memories. You can't fake that or copy that anywhere else.
No, you're absolutely right.
We were talking about your style is eclectic American.
Sure.
So you're eclectic in your food choices as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
I kind of see that already.
Yeah, this is our seasonal salad that we do every summer. It's my favorite salad. Spinach-based, cherry tomatoes are from local farmers, watermelon, mint from the rooftop, pistachios, a tahini vinaigrette. Kind of gives you that sweet and umami taste. I love the salad. This is an arepa. It's a Colombian dish. Typically, it's street food in Colombia. We stuff the eggs on the inside, but I'm not from Colombia, so I just did it my way. But arepa corn cake is on the bottom. We make our own chorizo in-house. It's got a salsa verde with 2 Orizi eggs with a melted cheese mix on top. These are our Creole grits, egg sunny side up with andouille sausage, okra, shrimp, smoked paprika, Parmesan grits on the bottom. And then we have a biscuit sandwich that's going to go on the menu here. It's got hot honey on both tops of the buns, smoked Gouda, egg, turkey sausage that we make in-house, and then these are our cauliflower bites. They're made just like buffalo chicken, but they're cauliflower.
Some say it's the simple things in life, but I've come to think that sometimes it's the complexities that are made to seem simple, like a flight of biscuits. Just enough flavor embedded in the open canvas of a biscuit, a familiar comfort food with an unexpected twist. It's simple enough to make you wonder why everybody is not doing it.
And we change it up pretty regularly, but people have been loving this combination. Strawberry basil, and that's tarragon, buttermilk, and the jam today is peach mango. I've already kind of been known for making biscuits, and then we just started thinking about different kinds of biscuits to use. And when we first started, I didn't think that it was going to take off as well as it did, because I was like, oh, we can just do these biscuits for the whole time. And everybody was ordering biscuit flights, because who doesn't like a flight? This is my biscuit queen.
Okay. And you mean that in a lovingly way, right?
I do. Only because I don't want to make them as much as she does. So we try to stay, I guess, progressive, to keep changing the biscuit so we're not bored with what we're making all the time. Our most famous or popular one was like maybe 2 months ago. It was a white chocolate beet biscuit. So good.
That's an unusual combination.
So we just like to throw caution to the wind with our biscuits.
Yeah.
We are flanked by the Fox Theater. We're flanked by the Sheldon, the Pulitzer, the Contemporary Art Museum, the Symphony is right down the street. The Grandel is right down the way as well. Jazz St. Louis is right down the street as well, in Strauss Park. So there's a reason to come to Grand Center for art and music, and just for entertainment. I mean, it's a really good community that was really starting to get its legs and start to grow. And then the pandemic came and slowed everything down. But I really believe that once this all calms down, people will still see Grand Center as a place for the arts.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of really good support during the pandemic. People just offering to donate money to us because they know that it's a hard life running a small restaurant.
Yeah.
Really, really good support, and I can't even begin to thank them for all the support I've gotten.
Yeah. And I mean, so the silver lining in all of this is it brings the best out in people. It really does.
It does.
It's not only negative; it's positive.
Absolutely, there's a lot of positives.
And St. Louis is like that.
It's still very surreal for me to realize that I have a restaurant.
Yeah. Spend a little time exploring the art district here, and you'll find more than you can do in one day. Food, murals, exhibitions, all the way up to the marquee of the historic Fox Theater. And we have the Harold and Dorothy Stewart Center for Jazz. It's right in here, which is another great eatery in St. Louis and in the art district. This is where it's at. Just down the street from Turn, the Moto Museum features more than 80 fully restored motorcycles motorcycles from 21 different countries. We popped in here to look at all these motorcycles. It's unbelievable. The collection here is so beautiful. This is Steve McQueen's motorcycle on loan from Hollywood. I can hardly believe it, but they even have a bike here from Denmark. Denmark, look at that. I remember that. I haven't seen one of these forever. What are the chances to find a Danish bike in St. Louis? Unbelievable. No matter if you don't like cycles or not, it's still a work of art. St. Louis never fails to surprise me. Well, that makes me even more proud of my heritage. The restaurant is closed today, but I'm back at turn to meet David's wife and learn how they collaborate as artists. Hello, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Thank you for having me, David.
Thanks for coming.
I know you're into records.
Yes.
So I brought you one of my favorites.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you have it or not. And
Oh, Jimmy Buffett, look at that. This is an old Jimmy Buffett record. Look at him.
It is. And
That's awesome.
Every time I'm here in St. Louis, I go to the vintage vinyl.
Oh, yeah?
And I always find Jimmy Buffett albums I don't have. I'm not saying to put it up on the wall, but you're a very interesting couple. I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask, you know. Thinking about the food aspect of it, you know, it would be some interesting dinners at your house, or, you know, how do you combine that, you know, are we eating lox on Sundays, or?
I mean, we go back and forth. Like, when I went to visit their family, and it was Passover, I had gefilte fish. And I was like, oh, can I have 2 pieces of gefilte fish? And the rest of the family was like, ugh. And I love it, you know. So my mom loved like herring and gefilte fish, and so there's some aspects to like just soul food is just soul food throughout cultures, right?
So you taught yourself how to cook then?
I did. I had to learn how to cook myself as a latchkey kid. But food has always been
A what kid?
Latchkey kid. So
what does that mean?
When you come home from school, you have your key around your neck. It's a working class family. You had to like get yourself in the door. There's nobody at home to make food for you, right? So as a latchkey kid, I learned how to like make grilled cheese sandwiches and cook eggs and cook bacon. First time I cooked bacon without a shirt on, I learned that was not a smart thing.
It's still not a smart thing.
It is not, and I wear lots of shirts when I cook bacon, so there you go.
You were the chef at a restaurant, Osage?
Yes, John McFeeters, who owned Bowood Farms Nursery. He wanted to open a cafe next to his nursery, and I interviewed and cooked some food for him, and a couple of weeks later, I got the job, and that was 2007, so that kind of thrust me into the role of like buying equipment for the restaurant, all the refrigeration, the stoves, because it was just a bare slate. And I mean, it was the best learning curve that I could ever have, like to open a restaurant with someone else's money. Even though I didn't own the restaurant, I took a lot of ownership for the restaurant for them. And I had that restaurant for 9 years. We opened in 2008, and I left in March of 2016.
So you go from that restaurant, and then it translates into you getting this space.
We didn't really know what the restaurant was going to be called. Lots of people thought it should be called David Kirkland's or Kirkland's, and we didn't really have an idea. Really, it's still very surreal for us to think that we have a restaurant now after 3 years. We wanted it to be a place where people could come in, have good food, listen to good music, and just have a good time. And what I do in my hobby is play music with records, and I use a turntable. And also, spinning for me and cooking is the same motion and the same idea and concept. Like, you know, when I cook, I take pieces of different things to make a whole plate of food. When I make music with the turntables, I take one record and then take another record and then put them together to make a whole piece. So when I'm mixing records, I kind of think of it as like cooking. So I'll adjust the highs, the mediums, and the lows, like I'm adding salt and pepper or garlic and spices to it. It's almost like you're folding in something into like a recipe. You don't want to do it too drastically because it can mess up the whole part. And just like with like the heat, you know, like there's a gain button, I can turn it up, so I want it to be a little bit louder, right? And then I'm going to add another part to this to create one whole piece.
Who had the idea about the wall with all the...
We had this beautiful feature wall to do something, and we are sitting on thousands of records at home. And with the idea of Turn, we had a buddy of ours just build a really easy record wall to just, there's actually an old grate door behind it that we kept they had to keep for the historical purposes, but the architects were like, you could cover it with whatever you want. And I thought this was just a great way to bring color in. And it creates art without creating art.
We share studio space. One side's music, one side is her arts. The music that I play affects her hues and her colors.
I see.
And if I'm playing too aggressive, then she's like, I'm gonna go upstairs. And I'm like, no, I'll change, it's okay, stay.
But there is an idea behind the colors too.
We wanted to also create an ambiance and not just be random, but I love the idea of the challenge of making this color move across the blinks. And it's really fun because people come up and they're like, oh, I've had this record, or it just creates a nice visual impact.
When is a good time to come in here if you want to experience the music?
So pre-COVID, we were doing it every first Friday for evening when we had dinner service, but we're not doing dinner service currently because our dinner business revolves around the Fox and the Symphony, and they're not having any shows right now, and the Sheldon as well.
We used to do parties in through the lobby with theater parties. We want to support every kind of art that happens, whether it's visual or performing or music. So it's a great marriage for us to be here.
And it just added to a really nice piece of like just who we are and how we operate. If you come to our house and have dinner, there's always music playing, and there's always food coming out. There's always something ready for you to eat, and that's how we wanted Soulful Turn and Turn to be.
As creative thinkers and artists and people use our hands, we're always problem solving. Where they say the arts is so important in education, how you problem solve and think about how to alter the business is just constant right now.
So all of those things, in turn, make a whole complete thing for us in our lifestyle here.
Although they work in different mediums of art, the restaurant provides a common canvas for these two to create something together. How beautiful is that? And I'm going to take over now and do the scratch.
Go ahead.
I don't know how to do that. The average human palate has between 2,000 and 5,000 taste buds. Think of them all as art critics. Art is, in essence, a desire to create something, an expression of a feeling, a way of showing the world what we have inside of us. That's what cooking is to David. That's what cooking is to me. St. Louis is a city that is in love with art. It's the Greek god of desire, and his head exploded. An artful food. Everywhere you look, there is something new to eat.
But St. Louis has always been big on food, and I think the scene is growing. I think things that are happening like in the Foundry are amazing. What Brian Hardesty did out at 9 Mile Garden, it's awesome for the food trucks. You know, the fact that we have 2 food magazines is huge, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of like love for food.
Maybe Degas said it best when he said, "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." A watermelon and a handful of ingredients can be what they are already, and that's good enough. But in the hands of an artist, they can become elevated to something greater. The critics are happy. I haven't had a meal in his restaurant that I wouldn't love to have again. It comes through, if you know what I mean. Art imitates life. Even the fountains downtown are closed. Things are the hardest now that it's ever been for the restaurant scene. Just as we were gaining momentum, COVID hit the reset button. The industry is bending under the strain of pandemic restrictions, and the fibers of the canvas is being stretched thin. But as bad as it seems, all is not lost. There is an atmosphere of community in St. Louis that you'll be hard-pressed to find in any other place.
I think everyone is really hoping that everyone does well. There's no like serious competition. Everybody wants everyone to do well in this town.
Yeah. Good art, good food is timeless. There'll always be a need for it. And why wouldn't it be that way? After all, food is love.